Hello and welcome to my channel. I think we all know the drill by now. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for returning. I do really appreciate it. And if you're a first-time viewer, do at least consider sticking around for the next 10 seconds. So, first of all, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm glad you asked. I am going to first produce, and I'm stealing this idea from Criminolly. Criminolly is an absolutely excellent booktuber, and I'm stealing this idea from him. I'm stealing a random book from the shelves. Now, this is a horror channel, I know, but I don't just read horror, I read a bit of everything, if you know what I mean. And this book is a book on how to stop procrastinating. Now, I am a terrible procrastinator, okay? Full disclosure, I was originally intending to do this video, like, in January, but here we are. I'm a terrible procrastinator, and I saw this book in Gatwick Airport in January 2011, okay? And I thought, yeah, I'm going to get this book because I'm a terrible procrastinator. This book will help me stop procrastinating. Now, you're probably thinking, is it any good? Did it help? Okay, full disclosure, I haven't read it yet because, to be honest, it looks really, really boring and I'm not motivated to read it. But when I do finally read it, I'll let you know whether I thought it was good or not. Okay, that's the random book from the shelves section done. Next up, we're jumping into the wacky world of horror, and we have got You Like It Darker by Stephen King. Now, if you saw my August TBR, which is a really, really awesome video, and you really should watch it if you haven't seen it, it was on my TBR then, and now I have read it, and I'm here to tell you what I thought about it. So, I thought it was pretty good. Okay, I'll go into more detail. So there are 12 stories, okay? And I think it's a fairly solid collection. I don't think it's his best. I think his best short story collections were his early ones. Night Shift, Skeleton Crew, and Nightmares and Dreamscapes. But I think it's much, much better than the short story collections he's done since those. There are 12 stories, as I said. I've got to say, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, don't worry, and I'm not going to give you a long, drawn-out description of every story. I'm just going to talk about a few. Honestly, I thought the first one, it's called Two Talented Bastards. I thought that was pretty slow, and I found it a bit of a slog. But it picked up from the second story onwards, and I think it's a pretty good collection overall. The third story, Willie the Weirdo, it's got a nice kind of twist at the end. Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream, it's a pretty long story. It's about a man who dreams about a dead body that's been hidden, and he keeps dreaming about it until he feels pushed to go and investigate. And, lo and behold, there really is a dead body. And that kind of complicates his life to no end, not least from the police's point of view. So it kind of shows that there's this guy, he's trying to do the right thing, but, obviously trying to explain that where a dead body is because you dreamed it, that's not an explanation a lot of people are going to buy. On Sliding Road was another favourite. I thought that was pretty good. It's about family. There's a typical kind of family, mother, father, son, young son. And there's the crusty old grandfather. They're doing a long trip and they take a wrong turn and they meet some quite unsavoury characters and things, pan out from there. There's the Turbulence Expert. I've read this story before. I think it was in Flight or Fright. It's a book about aerial horror. Okay. That's a pretty good story too. And then there's Rattlesnakes. That's a ghost story in which we are reunited with an old character from one of Stephen King's earliest novels. And it's a really interesting one. It's nice when you see him return to a character that he hasn't written about for decades. No, it's pretty good. And then there's The Answer Man. This is an interesting story. It kind of makes you think, okay, if you could ask someone anything, what would you ask them? Would you want to know the future? And what is the price of knowing? Is there a price? So I just highlighted a few stories from here, the ones that stood out to me. But it's a pretty good collection, so I'll definitely recommend it. Sorry about the back there. Okay, now it's time for some good jokes. I like Lee Child, but I prefer Lee Adult. Okay, that's giving you time to stop laughing. I should explain, I did that joke in my last video and I got one more subscriber. So why mess up a winning formula? Now, next up, we have got the other book in this scintillating review, we have got Flaming Zeppelins, The Adventures of Ned the Seal. So if you see there, we've got a Zeppelin, there are searchlights, London seems to be on fire, and we see Tower Bridge. This is by Joe Lansdale. So I don't normally read the synopsis on the back because, I don't want my videos to be even more boring, but I'm just going to read you a little bit, okay, if you're still watching. We've got, what do Annie Oakley, the disembodied head of Buffalo Bill Cody, Frankenstein, the Tin Man, Mark Twain, and a prehensile seal have in common? Find out as you leap with Sitting Bull from a flaming Zeppelin in a desperate escape from an imperial Japanese enclave. Okay, so when I first, the synopsis goes on a bit longer, but I'm not going to read all of it. When I first read this, I thought, okay, so it must be like a non-fictional historical work. So I was reading through it, and then I was about halfway through when I realised that it was actually fictional. What can we say about this story? I mean, it's got fictional characters like Frankenstein's monster, the Tin Man, Dracula, Captain Nemo, who's called Captain Momo, and Dr. Moreau, called Dr. Momo or something like that, for copyright reasons, I imagine. So it's got all these fictional characters and the aliens and the Martians from H.G.Wells' War of the Worlds. And it's also got real-life historical figures like Annie Oakley, Wild Bill Hickok, Buffalo Bill Cody, Mark Twain. And then it's also got Phileas Fogg, who's a fictional character, and his manservant Passepartout. So it's got this mix of fictional and real people. And it's just an insane... It's basically 2 books, but it's just insane. I'm not even going to try to go into any detail to explain it. In the first story, Buffalo Bill's flying around in a Zeppelin with his Wild West show. They land in Japan because they want to free Frankenstein's monster from the current Japanese shogun. And this is quite interesting. The shogun in this book is Sokaku Takeda. Sokaku Takeda was a real-life martial artist. He was the master of a style called Datoru, and he was the teacher of Morihei Ueshiba, who was the founder of Aikido. So Sokaku Takeda features in this book as well. He was a real psycho in real life, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So that's the story there. And in the second one, Ned the Seal and his companions return to Europe, only just in time to be attacked by the Martians from H.G.Wells' War of the Worlds. That's the basic story. The story flip. There's the narrator of the story. There's the storyteller. Joe Lansdale in this case, the impersonal storyteller. And there's also part of the story is also told in Ned the Seal's own words, because Ned is a super intelligent seal. You'll have to read the book. So this book, as I just said, is mad. It's the kind of madness that Joe Lansdale does really, really, really well. It's exciting, it's funny, there's some horror in it, but the horror's not really very strong. It's just nutty. I would highly recommend it if you want a good, nice, fun read. Okay, so that concludes this video. I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. The first 100 people to like and subscribe will go into my draw box and have the chance to win $18 billion US. So, what have you got to lose? Like, subscribe, comment, or comment, like, subscribe. Okay, that's all there is for now. See ya.